Okay, welcome to the Fall Transportation Advisory Committee meeting today. I'm glad to have you all on today. What I would like to do, because I'd like to make sure that we have enough time for the presentation, if you could put your name, your organization, and any contact information that you want to in the chat so that everybody can see and who else is here, that would be great. That's the way that I like to save some time so we can focus on the presentations today. Let me go ahead and bring up my presentation so you can see it. Oh, you have to go up there. Okay. All right. So with that being said, we just want to let you know as a reminder that this meeting is going to be recorded. We will have the recording available on the moveloraincounty.org website. Just remember to also mute yourself if you could, just to cut down on the noise so we can make sure to be respectful of the presenter today. So I just want to let you know what to expect today. We're going to be starting off with a presentation from Kierra Branch from the Ohio Department of Transportation. We're going to be talking about the accomplishments that Lorain County Mobility Management has been able to achieve specifically this year. I know a lot of times, it's been 4 years since this is the fourth year. Yeah, the fourth year. We've had mobility management here in Lorain County. Maybe people don't realize some of the accomplishments that we have made. So want to make sure that we're presenting that information to you. We're going to go over the transportation survey results. You may not be surprised on what we're finding, but want to make sure that you can see that. And, any questions you may have or comments you may have, greatly appreciated because we are in the midst of when we have to update the plan on an annual basis. And so I'm looking for feedback from all of you based on the survey results. We will, after the presenting the survey results, I like to do a Menti, an interactive questionnaire just to get your feedback and your comments. So I'm going to be asking you to either minimize your screen or use your phone to answer these questions. They're all anonymous. Then I want to tell you how you can get more involved. And then if you have any announcements from the general that you want to make to everyone, we want to make sure that you have time to be able to do that as well. So with that, Kierra, I would like to let you go ahead and speak. If you have anything that you want to share, you have sharing privileges. So Kierra, you want to introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes. So hi, everybody. Sharon, I actually don't have a presentation today. I know when you and I had discussed during the Mobility Management Roundtable, I was just coming to discuss some things about 5310, the 5310 program, more specifically those vehicles that are awarded through the 5310 program. So Sharon, please feel free to fire back some questions at me. We can kind of make this a conversation that might make it a little bit easier for individuals who are not aware of the program. But hi, everybody. I am Kierra Branch. I'm the 5310 program coordinator with ODOT, Ohio Department of Transportation, more specifically the Office of Transit. My role specifically is the Specialized Transportation Program. Within that program, we award projects such as 5310 vehicles, which there might be some agencies here today that have received vehicle projects through ODOT in the past or previously have received some ODOT vehicles. In addition to that, we do have our operating assistance projects through the 5310 program, our software equipment, as well as our preventative maintenance project that we have where you can receive funding dollars to provide repairs on the current active 5310 vehicles that you do currently have. But more specifically, I wanted to talk about the 5310 vehicles that you may receive or possibly, would receive if you were to apply for the program, what that looks like, and then how those vehicles can be utilized within the actual county, which is very important. So Sharon approached me a few, apologize, there was a message on my screen, but Sharon approached me a few weeks ago in our mobility management conference call regarding 5310 vehicles and how she might be able to assist individuals within the county for utilizing those vehicles, for transportation for seniors and persons with disabilities, which I thought was a really great idea. When you do receive a 5310 vehicle, we are, encouraging our subrecipients to utilize those vehicles as much as you can, providing the transportation to seniors, providing the transportation to persons with disabilities, and then in general, just the general public. And so sometimes subrecipients don't really know how to, utilize those vehicles or, the many different options that they have. And so what ODOT is doing now is we're pulling in our mobility managers across the state that are in these different counties as a way for them to review the current 5310 vehicles in their area, those that are active, and then ways in which we could all work together to utilize those vehicles. And Sharon, I wasn't sure if you wanted to add anything else, if there were any additional questions you might have for me.
So I guess we have, I think, quite a few people who are on right now. I think we have Licata Way that has some vehicles. I saw Neighborhood Alliance that's in the midst of getting vehicles and also is transferring some vehicles over to them. They've been great partners with us so far. I guess I just want to mention one of the ways in which we've been able to work with them. Or maybe we can start with this. What are some unique ways in which mobility managers can work with these vehicles? Because I think there needs to be a clear understanding of how the organizations use those vehicles for their needs, but then what happens when those vehicles may be sitting idle? What can a mobility manager do? Maybe you can explain that.
Absolutely. So Neighborhood Alliance is actually a really great example of the question that you just had, Sharon. So within the 5010 program, we don't like to see vehicles sitting. Those vehicles were awarded to provide transportation for seniors and persons with disabilities. But we understand that there might be an adult day program or an adult senior center that might have closed down due to, COVID or a number of factors. So the mobility manager in that area really works with ODOT in understanding which vehicles might need to be utilized in a different way or what vehicles can be transferred. So Neighborhood Alliance is a really great example that Sharon, I'm going to mention here. So Sharon contacted me, or I was contacted by an agency in Lorain County that is currently shutting down their adult day program. And they have about 4 5310 vehicles that they're not going to be able to use. Well, we want to understand how we can basically repurpose those vehicles. And so when I contacted Sharon, Sharon said, hey, I know an agency right now that doesn't have any vehicles and they're wanting to continue to provide transportation for seniors and persons with disabilities, Neighborhood Alliance. And so right now, ODOT is working with Neighborhood Alliance and Eliza Bryant to transfer Eliza Bryant's vehicles to Neighborhood Alliance. That way, transportation in that specific area can continue to be utilized. So that's one way that mobility managers, come in and are able to assist agencies with repurposing those vehicles so that they're not sitting. In addition to that, they're really kind of the bridge between what's going on in the county with those specific vehicles and what's happening here at ODOT. So utilizing the mobility manager to say, hey, these are the vehicles I have in my fleet from 5310. I don't believe that I'm going to be able to utilize them to the full capacity. There are a few vehicles that I might have sitting. We can find unique ways with the mobility manager to transfer those vehicles to other agencies that possibly need them in the county.
So, and I guess another, and I would love to hear any other questions that people have. So if you can use the reaction, let me see, where is it? It used to be down at the bottom. They've changed things around on Zoom. And you can raise your hand. Does somebody have a question or want to say something? Thought I heard somebody. Okay. If not, one of the other things, Kierra, that I think is important is that these agencies may use them for the needs designated. In other words, they have seniors, they're at a senior facility, they're using them for their seniors, but then sometimes they can sit idle. And I think that that's the most unique things for us as mobility managers, that if we know that they may have some idle time, that we may be able to use those to support the lack of transit that we do have in Lorain County right now. And the one way that we did this here in Lorain County is we did that for the vaccines. When we knew that there were low income people, seniors, people with disabilities who may not be able to get to these clinics that were happening around Lorain County. So I called upon Licata Way, Kendall at Oberlin, trying to think, even Lorain County Transit, and we created kind of a network in various cities. We did this in Lorain, we did this in Elyria, we did this in Oberlin, we did this in Wellington, to help get people to these vaccine centers. So I think, have you seen a lot of examples of that, of when these vehicles are sitting idle, how a mobility manager can utilize them in those ways? And that's the way that it's really supporting the network that we have.
Absolutely, Sharon. So the example that you used is really the biggest example that I've seen, definitely pre-pandemic and then post-pandemic, where 5310 agencies were really partnering with the mobility managers to provide that transportation either to local hospitals or local clinics for vaccination sites. In addition to that, there is an option for 5310s to do meal delivery. Now that does fall into the incidental use. So that is an option that mobility, not mobility managers, but 5310s do have 5310 subrecipients, and they can work with the mobility managers to understand what transportation is limited in that county and then what they can provide for the actual vehicle. Now within the 5310 program, we must remember that the seniors and persons with disabilities, those trips are prioritized. However, you still can provide transportation to the general public, to low income individuals. If there are any, I know there are some centers that have children that's able, children who have disabilities, you're also able to provide that transportation as well. So there's no age limit there.
So one of the, and I want your opinion on this too, Kierra, one of the other ways in which we're looking to use some of the downtime of vehicles, and we've been in the midst of working with Goodwill and their vehicle that they have, is also supporting workforce, low income
Yes.
workforce. They want to, because it helps a lot of their clients as well that can't get to jobs. And, Lorain County is the 9th largest county in Ohio out of 88, but we have some of the least amount of transit. And so so having these 5310 vehicles can help us bridge the gap in some of these unmet needs. You're going to see later on some information, and I might as well mention this now, that every dollar invested in public transportation generates $5 in economic activity. So there are seniors that are sitting at home that are like prisoners because they can't go anywhere, but they may have money to spend. There are low income people. I mean, in Lorain County, if you don't have a car, you're not really going very far, especially if you're in the rural communities. And so that's why this program really exists, is to be able to bridge those gaps. But we are looking, and we know that medical is our #1 problem. And I'm gonna show that through the transportation survey results. Access to food is #2. So I'm very glad to hear, because I remember a group of us had asked about meal delivery, and we were, the group was denied that opportunity to use 5310 vehicles for that purpose. So it's very, very good to hear that that is now allowed. But yeah, these are some of the creative ways in which I know that we're thinking about doing this. But Kierra, can you explain why it is important though, or what the requirements are that when an agency gets a vehicle, how important these meetings are for them to attend?
Yeah, absolutely, Sharon. So before I mentioned that, I did want to mention another way that mobility managers are very important in this connection between 5310, ODOT 5310 program, and then what's happening in the county. So whenever you're awarding a project, when you're a designated recipient, such as ODOT, we have a small urban funding pot, and then we also have a rural funding pot. In our small urban areas, I'm always seeing where those dollars are not being spent, where I award as many projects as I can, but I don't receive as many requests. in those small urban areas. I know this year in Lorain County, I had about 1 to 2 new subrecipients, but the mobility managers are really out in the county bringing about awareness of the specialized transportation program, because I will be honest, there's a lot of funding out there for small urban. And I'm literally like trying to pick and pull, projects to be able to fund in the area, but I just, I don't have that many requests. So that's another way that mobility managers are doing a really great job in the small urban areas specifically, getting out there and providing information about the specialized transportation program. And if there are agencies, in Lorain County, in these small urban areas that, want to provide transportation for seniors and persons with disabilities, please stay, and connected with Sharon at the TAC meetings. Please stay in contact with me over at ODOT, because we do have the funding available to provide. And I would definitely like to see more small urban projects that are able to provide that transportation come in for those funding dollars, because they are available. They're just not being spent down and they're not being requested.
So who is eligible to receive 5310 vehicles? What is the allocation for how much they receive from ODOT for the vehicle and then for operations? Or what money can an organization get? So can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So within the program, you would have to be a nonprofit organization or a state or local government or public body that has been designated by the state that can provide services for seniors and persons with disabilities. So that's the first thing. You also want to make sure that you're located in those service areas that are eligible under the 5310 program. So one of those in the small urban area, we're looking at, Richland County, Lorain County, those small urban areas that you're able, Allen County, just kind of naming a few. And then Sharon, you did have another question as well.
What is the allocation amounts? And, because I know that there's the cost for the vehicle, there's operations. What are the different types of grants that somebody could apply for?
Absolutely. So you could apply for several grants within the program. We break them down by capital projects and then, or traditional projects and then non-traditional projects. Your traditional projects are more so your capital projects. So you're looking at your vehicles, you're looking at preventative maintenance, and that's repairs. So preventative maintenance is repairs on active 5310 funded vehicles. You're looking at computer hardware and software projects. So all of those vehicles, when you're saying allocation, Sharon, I believe you're referring to the split, so 80-20. Okay.
Yes.
So if you apply for a capital project and you are awarded a capital project, let's say that's a vehicle, that's a computer software project, or a preventative maintenance project, that split is 80-20, meaning ODOT would cover 80% of the cost of that specific project, and then we would require 20% local match. So let's say that, I'm just going to use some easy numbers here for myself, but let's say that vehicle costs 100,000. ODOT would cover the 80%, which would be $80,000 of the full cost of the vehicle, which is 100, and then the local would, of course, be required to put in the 20,000, which is the 20% local match. So that's something to keep in mind as well, and that's for all of the capital projects, where ODOT would cover the 80%, and then the local would be required to cover that 20%. Now, your operating grant, and that's operational, meaning that you're hiring drivers to go out and provide, transportation for seniors and persons with disabilities. You're pretty much applying for the operations of your senior center or your adult day program. That's a 50-50 match, meaning that if you requested 100,000 total to provide the service, ODOT would fund 50% of that, so 50,000, and then the local would cover the other 50,000.
Yes.
So that's another project. Now we also have, which a lot of people are not aware of, is our capital cost of contracting project. And that is similar to our operating project, except for that project is considered to be capital. So ODOT would fund it 80%, and then the local would come in for the 20% match. And capital cost of contracting means that you're running a program, however, you are putting out an RFP and you are having local providers come in and say, hey, we can provide this specific transportation. You may have, maybe 5 local providers that you contract with that are going out, in the county and providing transportation to seniors and persons with disabilities. That is also an option that you have if you don't, directly employ drivers to provide that transportation.
Hey,
That's-
Kierra.
And PSA 3 actually, PSA 3 is also an Allen County Area Agency on Aging, and they have a third-party capital cost of contracting project through ODOT's 5310 program.
Go ahead, Natasha.
So hi, thank you so much. Just it's really a pleasure to be on this call with you, and I understand how frustrating that could be to not see as many projects come your way. And Sharon knows that that's frustrating for me too. I recall in the past, Juana was very kind in sending over a few projects that other counties have done.
Mhm.
Is there any way that you can send that our way, or maybe send us a link to where we can access some of the programs or projects that you're thinking about that Lorain County could take advantage of, and maybe we could mimic or mirror some of those based on the counties that have, maybe the same demographic or geographical landscape. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And Natasha, if there are specific projects that you're referring to, I can send those specifically to you, but what I can do is I have a couple of agencies that are in small urban areas that do provide, operating and preventative maintenance, and they also receive vehicles as well. I can connect with them and pull off their project description that they submit with their application. And I can definitely put that in a package and have that, share it with Sharon. And then Sharon, you can disseminate that if that's a good way to do that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
But I definitely want small urban areas to apply for, transportation in that specific area, because like I mentioned, the small urban pot is usually the apportionment is about, this year it was 2 million. And I received, I would say probably maybe 1 million in requests. So that's something to think about as well, where I'm literally pulling teeth to get projects. In my rural areas is not so much. I have about 3.5 million that I have 6 million in requests, but small urban is the complete opposite. So, having the mobility manager there and having her say, Sharon, come to these TAC meetings to understand the 5310 program, which it is very important. And I will talk about that, coming to the TAC meetings and why you must come to the TAC meetings for, to be a participant in the 5310 program. But it's very important to understand the program so that you understand the funding that's out there to be able to provide this transportation, because the funding is there. It's just getting the agencies that are in the small urban areas to actually apply for that funding.
Thank you. You want to go ahead and talk about the importance of coming to the TAC meetings, and then we can open it up to see if anybody has any questions for Kierra.
Yes, so Sharon, I'll go ahead and start. So within the 5310 program, there is an FTA requirement. You may know about it, which is the coordinated plan support document, or not the coordinated plan support document, but the locally developed coordinated plan. So that's what Sharon, as a mobility manager, she works on throughout the year, that 4-year locally developed plan that talks about the goals and the unmet needs and the strategies within the county. So that plan that she develops is a requirement of the 5310 program. FTA requires that any project or any participant that wants to be within the 5310 program and actually receive that funding must be a part of that locally developed coordinated plan. A portion of that is coming to the TAC meetings, because when you attend the TAC meetings, you understand the coordinated plan. You're involved in actually, developing those goals and strategies. Without being at the TAC meetings, without understanding what's in the plan, without coming to the TAC meetings and ensuring that your project is actually in the plan, there's funding that you would actually miss, because we do, at ODOT, we do review that, and we do work with the lead agency and the mobility manager to understand, what parties are coming to the TAC meetings, what stakeholders are involved. So that's something that we do throughout the application process. And we do have a coordinated plan support document in place within the application where we request, information about your participation in the TAC meetings. We request information regarding your strategies and goals of your project and how they align to the coordinated plan. So the TAC meetings are very, very important for, agencies that are potentially wanting to come to be a participant of the 5310 program, to actually come to those meetings and then receive that funding. But in addition to that, You don't want to come to the TAC meetings just to receive 5310 funding. You're wanting to come to the TAC meetings to be stakeholders, to understand what needs and goals and strategies are in the county that you can also be a participant in as well.
Yes, thank you, Kierra, for emphasizing that. I know, I believe in 2023, we're going to be really taking a look at everybody who has a vehicle and starting to record who's coming to the meetings and who's not. So we have that information for the Ohio Department of Transportation, because we really need, this is not my plan. This is the county plan. And I can't see all and know all that's going on. And so that's why it's really important to get the input from everyone. And by the way, next year is a complete rewrite of the coordinated plan. So next year, more than ever, we're going to need everybody's participation on this. So I wanted to see if anybody had any questions for Kierra regarding this program. I mean, you can see that we have a lot of opportunity for more vehicles in Lorain County. Otherwise, Kierra, does that money go back to the federal government?
So the money, it doesn't necessarily go back to the federal government, meaning I obligated it and then it comes back to me. Let's say that, for example, 2 million is what I receive for federal fiscal year 2023. And then I only receive $1 million in request. I fund that $1 million, and then the additional $1 million that's sitting, I just carry that over to the next year and continue to, and what I do is I carry that over to the next year and continue to fund projects. However, that $1 million that's sitting, and this is just FTA, ODOT, transportation, high level jargon here, but that funding would potentially lapse after a while. So if it's 2023 money and it's sitting there, it's going to lapse in 2025, meaning that in 2025, if I don't have, small urban projects to draw down and obligate that remaining 1 million, it's gone. So that's what we're working on right now. And when FTA is like, hey, let's get some more small urban projects, I love to come to these TAC meetings and tell small urbans the money is out there. Definitely just apply.
Okay, I see we do have a hand raised. Ashley, if you want to unmute yourself and ask.
Hi, how are you guys today?
Hi, Ashley.
I'm good. I actually had a question relating to recovery courts. I'm the coordinator and probation officer for Lorain Municipal Recovery Court. And obviously we serve a population of individuals who are classified under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I was wondering if we would qualify for funding to get a vehicle and have those operational expenses as well.
Yes, so Adams County, that I will say, Ashley, that is a unique project. That would be more so funded under our STP program, which, just on a side, we do have state funding. Sometimes that's available within the 5310 program. That's a supplement of the actual annual apportionment. So because that project is a little bit more unique in the actual individuals that you would be serving, it would be eligible, but the funding type and the funding source that we would provide for that particular agency or your agency, should we fund it, would be slightly a little bit different.
Okay.
But yes. I would encourage you, Ashley, to contact me. I want to hear a little bit more about your project and some possibilities of getting it funded, depending on the segment population that you will be providing that transportation to.
Okay, that would be great.
And I'm going to put my email address. I told you to email me, and then I didn't put my email address in the chat. I'm going to put that in the chat right now for anyone that wants to email me specifically after this call regarding their project. It's a possibilities that we have for funding.
Thank you.
Kierra, can you talk about the schedule of the grant cycle, so that people know when to start looking out for applying? And I think I'm going to try to, knowing that there's so much money sitting on the table a lot of times, maybe work with our local papers to really make an announcement that it's available as well.
That's really great, Sharon. And that would be a really great start. I'm going to do, my best, definitely schedule allowing to attend these TAC meetings and additional meetings that you might have in the county to bring about awareness of the specialized transportation program, so that we can definitely get more, applicants in that specific area. But the funding cycle, and Sharon, I will go through my emails and send that. I don't know if you've seen that cycle that we have, that picture that we created at ODOT. I will send that to you so you can disseminate it to the participants today. But within the actual funding cycle, it's literally almost like a life cycle, an application that we have. So our application cycle actually starts in February of each year, where in February, we have our LOI, our letter of intent. And this document just lets you know, it lets ODOT know, hey, I'm interested in applying for the full application. So that usually happens in February. February rolls around, you submit your letter of intent. And then in March is where ODOT has that mandatory application workshop. And the mandatory application workshop is to, one, let you know if your letter of intent has been approved, but then also to discuss the specifics of the application and to discuss the specifics of the programs. Once you attend the mandatory application workshop in March, ODOT usually publishes the application in April to May. Once the application is published mid-April, it's due towards the end of May. And then those award announcements we like to make more towards August 1st, because we have between June and July 31st to review the application, score them, and then provide agencies with the results. So August 1st, we would actually make the award announcement to let agencies know if their project was funded or not. And then after August 1st, we're usually looking at about September, October timeframe of where we do a program orientation. So that program orientation you would attend to let you know more about your specific project, any funding requirements that you have for your vehicles if you receive them, any program requirements, any reporting requirements that you would have for that particular project. And then we would actually in October send you out the contract. And then January 1st is when your project would actually start. So you would begin incurring those costs for those particular projects. And then the cycle would just continue to go on and on and on and on, where in February, you have the letter of intent. And then after February, you would go into March, mandatory application workshop. April is when your application, you would be working on that application to submit it mid-April. And then May 1st, ODOT would usually, review those applications. We have a couple of months for us to actually, I think we have about 5 weeks to review applications. So that pushes us to about August 1st to where we make those award announcements. And then your program orientation in September and October. End of October, you actually have when ODOT would send you out the contract. And then January 1st is when your project would actually start. And then it just keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. And I will share with Sharon that application cycle so that you're able to kind of see the dates of when everything falls.
Thank you. So I wanted to open it back up to see if there's any other questions you have for Kierra, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the rest of the program. Otherwise, you can raise your hand. I can't see that.
Kim Preston asked the question, and it's a really great question. This is something that's brought up a lot of times. Kim, any ideas and opportunities for finding drivers? A challenge is finding drivers. Yes, so this is something that I'm hearing a lot, especially on the rural side, where rural agencies are having a hard time finding drivers. One way that this has kind of been supplemented just a little bit is through that operating project that I mentioned. So in the operating grant, there is a section where you can claim your driver's salaries and wages on that invoice. So let's say you may say that, hey, our entire grant is 100. Our entire grant is 100,000. 50 of it we need to pay our driver's salaries and wages. You can claim that expense, and ODOT would pay up to 50% of that. Your driver's salaries and wages. We would reimburse you that percentage. Now, with that being said, I have seen agencies that currently are operating assistance, projects that they have through our program. They have increased their driver salaries and wages. Some people have went up to $17 to $18 just to kind of get some more people in the door. So if you do apply for that particular project, that is a way to, possibly get some drivers in the doors by increasing the hourly rate, increasing that salary, and then you can claim that on the operating invoice, and we reimburse you up to 50% of that cost.
Okay, it looks like we have two more hands up. We do have Tad, you want to unmute and ask your question?
So I had applied for the operating grant. It's probably been, I don't know, I'm gonna guess off the top of my head and say it was 7 years ago. So the operating grant at that time, and I guess my question is, has it changed? The operating grant is based off of an agency running in the red. It's geared more towards the county or something where they could go back to the commissioners and say, we're short this much money. And the commissioners would then allocate half of whatever, and the other half would then go to the state, and that's what would be reimbursed. At that point in time, it was not a matter of you're going to pay 50% of what my operating costs are as a grant right up front. Is that the way that things still are? I don't know that I explained myself very well, but did that make sense?
So the operating grant, the way that I've always understood the operating grant TAD in the 5310 program since I've been here, is that this is a 50-50 project, meaning 50% is funded by ODOT federal, and then the other 50 we do require on your end as a local.
And that is correct, but it is 50% of what you are in the red. I mean, so my problem is that when I went to put in my cost and those things through the spreadsheet, it came back to where I wouldn't get reimbursed anything because I'm operating in as a break-even kind of a situation. I wasn't operating in the red, but I can't, as an agency, I can't afford to operate in the red. And that was the part that the ODOT grant was paying, was whatever you were in the red. If you were short, if you're covering your cost, then ODOT was not reimbursing me for anything.
I'm not sure what you mean in the red. ODOT would only not reimburse if those expenses that you're claiming are not eligible through the operating grant. So there are some expenses, like we have a USOA, which is our Uniform System of Accounts, and it gives us line items that are eligible to be reimbursed back to the agency. The only time that we would not reimburse from your specific grant is if you're claiming things that are not eligible in the grant. So on an operating invoice, let's say I award you $100,000 and you say, hey, $25,000 I want to be reimbursed for the vehicles that we have. We had some repairs. Well, I wouldn't reimburse you for that because that's a capital expense. It's not an operating expense. The only time we would not reimburse is if those expenses are not eligible under our USOA. Not if you're operating in the red. I'm not familiar with that. I've only been in the program for going on 3-4 years. So that could have been prior to me coming to ODOT.
Well,
but since I've been here.
And that's what I'm trying to understand is if the program changed, because at that point in time, if I was able to cover costs, then I was not reimbursed, and I don't know. The program was very much geared towards more like Lorain County Transit or somebody that had another funding source where if they were, I'm not sure how I can really explain this.
Well, Tad, maybe you and Kierra can talk offline.
Yeah, that would be great. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That may be something that I would give consideration to again, but because of the way the program had been set up in the past, and I think that I was one of the first agencies around here that actually had applied for the operating grant. And that's when it was first coming around. So maybe things have changed. And I guess that was my question as much as anything. Has it changed in the last 7 years?
Yeah, well, it sounds like there's the money there for it. So
yes, I mean, if you can, Tad, one thing I want to mention as well is that, when we award projects, we want to ensure that they do have the local match requirement, whether it's 20% or 50%. So if the agency can't certify within the application, hey, if you give me the 50%, I'm able to cover the other 50. That's something that
none of that was the problem.
Oh, okay.
The problem had to do with the amount of revenue that I had and was covering cost and expenses. When I went through and filled out on the line items, and they were all legit expenses and covered under the grant, because I had them covered through my revenues coming in, I was not eligible to be reimbursed. I mean, that's just the way that it worked out. It's not a matter. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you're operating okay, the state's not going to give you more money to continue that situation and increase your profit margin, I guess is what I'm saying, something along those lines. But I'm willing to have some more conversation about this. I would appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to put my number, my contact information in the chat as well. So if you want to give me a call, Tad, we can talk about that specific project. And then anyone else that may have a question along that line as well, we can definitely set up a meeting. So I'm putting that in the chat and my email address.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, Natasha, you have another question.
Yeah, I think it kind of has to do with what Tad's asking, because I know you mentioned nonprofits and I know you mentioned, municipalities, but I'm just wondering, how does that look, or how does that work if we do have Lorain County Transit, like how is it that other organizations or, maybe subdivisions within government are able to apply for grants? Because I'm not sure if there's an overlap. I'm not sure if there's a barrier when it comes to that. So I specifically work in community development under the Board of Commissioners. So I'm not sure what we can do in our department, if it's going to be something separate or if it has to be through LCT.
Absolutely. So that, Natasha, is a really, really, really great question. So agencies can apply. Let's say you are in an area where there is a transit system. And this is a question that comes up all the time. We also have it built into our scoring section as well. So ODOT, we do prioritize projects. We do prioritize projects that don't have a transit system in the area because they don't necessarily have those resources. The transit system should be taking on a lot of those rides. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't, if you do have a transit system in your area, that you won't receive any funding. What you'd want to do in your application is you would want to state if you're applying for operating dollars, if you're applying for vehicles, if you're applying for preventative maintenance, you're going to want to state in your application how there is no duplication of services. Because the 5310 program, it is designed to fill in the gaps where the transit system, can't provide that service. There are some transit systems that, can't provide out of county, transportation. There are some transit systems that don't do or specific medical transportation. So if your agency can provide that transportation that the transit system cannot, then those are opportunities for funding as well, because that's what ODOT is going to look for. So that's a really great question, Natasha. There might be a transit system in your area. We know Lorain County is, Lorain County Public Transit is there, but there's a possibility that they can't provide all of that service. And as long as what you're doing is filling in the gaps for seniors and persons with disabilities and not duplicating the service that they already provide, meaning Lorain County Transit is showing up at the same house that you're showing up to all the time, that's a duplication of service. If you're doing out of county trips and specific emergency medical transportation or doing workforce trips, those are ways that you're not duplicating that service, and I will be looking to see within that application. And that was a really, really great question.
Yeah, and I do want to add, you mentioned something that we're going to touch on when we look at the survey results, which is the fact that ODOT is really also looking at regional transportation. And that's an issue that we have which is a connection into our neighboring counties. And I'll just tease you a little bit. We're going to see a little information on why people need to get to the neighboring counties. So let's, I don't know if there's any other questions. If you do need to ask Kierra anything, she has her information there in the chat. So please feel free to contact her regarding that. Oops. And we'll go ahead and move on. I know Kierra has to get off. She has another appointment here pretty soon. But I just want to thank you, Kierra, for being here today and talking about this program. I will be taking this section of the meeting and cutting it out and placing it on our YouTube channel so that people have access to it, so they can learn more about this program and the funding that's available specifically for our county that we need to take advantage of, because I think there are more people, more organizations out there that may want to do that. So I just want to thank you, Kierra, for being here. I love working with you, by the way. She's really one of my, don't tell anybody, she's one of my favorite ODOT people down there. But thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Sharon, so much for inviting me to the meeting. This is my first TAC meeting, and I have another one right after this with another county. But yes, as Sharon mentioned, there is funding available. Sharon, if there are any agencies that you have there today, or if there are other agencies, nonprofit providers in Lorain County that are really like, hey, we can provide transportation, we're looking for funding opportunities to be able to do this, please feel free to have them reach out to me. I can definitely go over the 5310 program. I can talk about all of the eligible projects, anything that we can do to kind of get some transportation really up and running in that area is really what I'm here for. So thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak about the program.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and move on. Unfortunately, it's going to be mostly me today as we take a look at what is the mobility management program. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what that is and just remind you of a couple of things, show you the accomplishments, and then we'll go right into the survey results. So this map is not up to date, I will tell you that, but I want you to get a sense of where all the mobility managers exist throughout the state of Ohio. So we cover about 2/3 of the state of Ohio. And many of the mobility managers are really located in either rural or small urban and rural communities, because that's where the lack of transportation really exists. And I know practically all these people, and I work very closely with them and love them to death. They are a special group, I will tell you that. These people are people who really care about their community and work hard every day. So this is what the Federal Transportation Administration says about mobility management. I just want to read this word for word so you understand what it is. Every time I say I'm a mobility manager, I always have to explain what it is because it's just so general. So mobility management is an innovative approach for managing, delivering coordinated transportation services to customers, including older adults, people with disabilities, and individuals with lower incomes. Mobility management focuses on meeting individual customer needs through a wide range of transportation options and service providers. It also focuses on coordinating these services and providers to achieve, I can't see on my screen, a more efficient transportation service delivery system. So that's the reason why the mobility manager and the vehicles that exist within Lorain County, whether they be 5310 vehicles or other vehicles, are important. That mobility manager is trying to coordinate these different transportation providers to fill these gaps, to meet the needs that we have. And we're going to be showing you what those needs are as a result of the transportation survey. So just to let you, or to remind you about how this program came to be. So similar to the vehicles that we just talked about, the mobility management program is also funded under the FTA, Federal Transportation Administration 5310 program via the Ohio Department of Transportation. So that money comes from the federal government to the state. We apply, or the organization for where the mobility manager exists applies to receive these funds. The grant here was submitted by United Way of Greater Lorain County in association with Move Lorain County, which is a grassroots transportation advocacy group, in 2019. The mobility manager has been housed since January 2020 at United Way of Greater Lorain County. It is something, just like with the vehicles, every year has to be renewed. So there has to be an application every year to continue that program. And it was kind of commissioned through the coordinated plan, which was developed in 2018. As I mentioned earlier, the whole plan has to be completely rewritten next year. So that's going to be a big task. We're looking for everybody to be involved in all their comments that they have in order to put a new plan together with new data, so we can continue this program. And the coordinated plans, they used to be able to be varied as far as their length of time, but ODOT seems to be now really focused on these being 5-year plans. So the plan that we have that we developed in 2018, it actually goes through the end of next year. So the plan that we're rewriting next year will start in 2024. As I mentioned before, why is this important? It's not, it's very important to be able to help these segmented populations, but also it's about economic development. Every dollar invested in public transportation generates $5 in economic activity. For instance, a transit line that is in front of housing, those houses, their values increase. People who may have money to spend, if they can't get where they need to go and they don't have a car, that's money that's not circulating within the community. Right now, because of the pandemic, we're seeing a struggle with workforce and employers looking for employees. And these employees may not have the vehicles in order to get to these good paying jobs. That's all economic development. So that's why this is another reason why it's important, besides the fact of the importance of just helping vulnerable populations within Lorain County. So I want to go on to mention some accomplishments, because I know that these things are happening, and a small circle of people that I talk with all the time know that it's happening, but I don't know if everybody knows what's happening and the progress we're making. Yes, we've been at this since 2020, but I think people are wondering, okay, you've been at this since 2020, what are you really doing? So I want to make sure you're aware of what's happening. So in 2020, we put together a transportation guide. We are in the midst of updating that, and I'm hoping to have that available by early October. We've been able to add 4 new transportation providers to this guide. Also, as a result of some training that I've received regarding disabilities, we've added the Lorain County Transit ADA section, so people are aware of the ADA dial-a-ride service and the application process for paratransit here in Lorain County. Previously, we had a lot of inserts we were putting in, and so we're trying to reduce some of the inserts, but making sure that we're continuing to put the Lorain County Transit information in, because it can be a challenge to find that route information all the time. Also, one of the big projects that's coming up that I think would be great for everyone is there's going to be a database, a statewide database of transportation providers, and that should be hopefully released before the end of this year. So this means that you can just go right online and look up information, whether it's in Lorain County or another county, and find transportation services, and whether they're wheelchair accessible, all kinds of information. So all of us mobility managers have been trying to input all this information from our transportation guides to provide that. So that's going to be really, I think, great. So you don't have to just look at the guide. You don't have to try to search for the routes information online or, through various other sources. You'll be able to go to this one site and find it throughout the whole state of Ohio. So that's coming up. Workforce transportation pilot. This has been probably the main area that we've been focused on, specifically with Togus and Avient, providing rides since January of, providing rides since January 1st of this year through yesterday. We provided 985 rides for Togus and Avient. And we're now extending this program with support from these agencies or from these businesses through November 30th at this time. This pilot project has been featured in the Pulse magazine, which is one of the main magazines Lorain County Chamber uses to talk about local businesses and other activities happening in Lorain County. In May of this year, we had a discuss and educate about workforce transportation luncheon that went over very well. Was very proud of that. And what we are looking to do is work with the county administrators to see if we can expand this workforce pilot project for 2 to 4 years. We have a lot of interest from a lot of businesses that want to participate in this. And we're also looking at ways to use technology to make these kind of transportation projects more efficient and equitable right now. And that's what, so basically we're looking to see how can we use ARPA dollars because ARPA dollars were there for equitable projects and getting people from lower income neighborhoods who may not have cars to these really good paying jobs is an equitable project. So stay tuned to see how that plays out. So we're excited about that opportunity. So the other area of focus here, when you deal with transportation, you have to constantly learn. So these are some of the training and conferences that I've attended this year, and it's really increased my knowledge. I will tell you that one of the areas that I struggled the most with was ADA. And that has been a really big focus this year for me. I've been so frustrated with not knowing how do I support people with disabilities. But I've been able to attend the Community Transportation Association of America, or CTAA conference in Louisville. There they had a focus on technology and talked about microtransit. I also attended in Columbus a passenger assistance training, PAT training. I had to physically learn how to secure a wheelchair in a bus. And so I've also become a train the trainer in June 2022. I attended the ATI travel instruction training in Cleveland in August. And that is where my knowledge of paratransit and ADA travel, my real awareness of how to support people became, it heightened. And then further, I went to Rutgers, it's National Transportation Institute. They're supported through the federal government. And so they offer a lot of free services. So I spent 12 hours learning introduction to paratransit management and operations. That was mind-blowing, just understanding all of that and some of the improvements we can be making here in Lorain County to really help people with disabilities. So in December of this year, I'm going to be taking another 12-hour training through Rutgers NTA on introduction to transit service planning. I just want to understand, how does all this work? How do you put this together? It's great to have all this information, but how do you plan all this out once you do have all this information and you have all these needs? So another project that I'm really proud about, and there's some people who've been on who are online right now, is been doing monthly transit ride-alongs. And I think it's been very eye-opening for a lot of people. Part of this is about really training people how to use the system. We are finding that it has been very difficult and that there's a lot of obstacles to people. I hear a lot of comments that, oh, the buses are empty. There are reasons why the bus might be empty. And I think Natasha is one of them that could tell you about some of those reasons, but want to let you know, these are some of the dates that I have coming up. If anybody's interested in riding Lorain County Transit with me, there's a couple of things that I ask you to do. You need to make sure you have $2 in exact change, because we do not have a cashless system, and the bus drivers cannot give you change. You need to schedule about 3 hours out of your day to do it, because we do a full round trip from start to finish, starting at Meridian Plaza. Look up Meridian Plaza. That'll be your first test. And which is in Lorain. I'll give you that much of a hint. And then third, bring a Dramamine. Some people have gotten a little motion sickness on the bus. And so I'm starting to make that a requirement that people bring that. But so I do have space for 1 or 2 people on September 23rd. We're leaving Meridian Plaza in Lorain at 1 p.m. October 21st at 1 p.m. November 11th at 9 a.m. and then December 9th at 1 p.m. If anybody else has a group of people, I like to usually make sure it's not more than 5. Please let me know. I just don't want to overcrowd the bus because there are actual people that get on the bus. And let me tell you, these people are really wanting to talk about their struggles and the issues that they have with riding the bus. Because they rely on it every day, and it's really a challenge for people riding it. I'm not trying to bash anybody. We're just trying to make awareness of the improvements that can be made that are very low cost or no cost, so we can respect the people who have to rely on it every day. So with that, are there any questions about the accomplishments or comments about what I just mentioned as far as what we've been doing in 2022? Okay. If not, I will go ahead and we're gonna go over the 2022 transportation results. Now, these are not the full results. I didn't want to bore you going over everything. So I just kind of try to hit what I consider to be the highlights. Let me see if there's any. Oh, so I do have, somebody recognized where Meridian Plaza was. By the Save-A-Lot in Lorain. Yes, that is, but if you try to Google it, you won't be able to find it if you Google it. So I think that is a big problem, in my opinion. And Maggie, yes, thank you for saying that it's been a beneficial experience to ride on the transit system as well. Okay, so moving on. So this was, we didn't have that many people respond this year. I'm hoping we can get a lot more next year. So we had about 130 people that responded. We did push it out there, but I think people are getting kind of survey stressed a bit, but I'm hoping next year when we do the rewrite that we can get a bigger response. But this is the general age of people that have responded. And you can see a majority of the people that have responded were really between 35 and 65 years old, with the biggest group being 55 to 65 years of age. So I don't know if that's any surprising anybody. So, but I think it's important to keep this age group in mind as we're looking at these results. So as you can see from this slide, a majority of people do consider themselves low income, and a majority, more than half, also have a disability. So what is their employment status? Well, a majority of these people that replied were on SSI, but there was also a large group that were full-time, unemployed, or retired that answered this. Generally, I think during the times of day that people are finding a hard time finding transportation, the most seem to be either early morning or late afternoon. So early morning between 5 and 8:30, or late afternoon between 3 and 6. But to be honest with you, it almost looks equal across the board. And you see the other, there were a lot of people who just didn't answer. So if you're looking for the full results of everything and you want to see the details, I can get those to you. Just let me know. But for the most part, those, you can see that just about most of the time of the day, but early morning and even in early afternoon would be the target areas that we're looking at. Do you need to cross county lines? And where do you need to go? As you can see, majority, Cuyahoga County. Followed by, I was surprised that Medina and Huron were kind of equal. I mean, Erie too, Erie, Medina and Huron were equal, but majority Cuyahoga. It was interesting in the other, some people, I don't know what they did, but they put Cuyahoga anyway, or they didn't answer. So that's what why the other is so big. But look at the overwhelming reason why people need to get, and I find this very interesting. Medical, but socialization is a big one. They want to go to either for entertainment or for visiting family and friends. And then work isn't too far behind. I think you've probably heard me say this before, but about 60,000 people commute in from out of our 310,000 people in Lorain County commute into Cleveland for work every day. And a lot of those people are getting on Cleveland RTA and just riding on into work anyway, even though they live in Lorain County. So that connection is needed, as you can see from this result, for several reasons. So if you do use Lorain County Transit, what have they been using it for? Overwhelmingly, again, medical, followed by grocery, and then social service agencies, and then just your general shopping, department store, bank, restaurant. So those are the reasons why people who are using Lorain County Transit are using it. We are also finding, remember I said that if you ride with me, you're going to have to bring $2. Well, as you can see from this, most people would like either a smart reloadable card, using a credit card or debit card to pay for Lorain County Transit. All the counties around us right now, a lot of the counties around us, Medina, Erie, Huron, and Cuyahoga all have a cashless system. From what I hear, I think Lorain County Transit might be moving in that direction. So let's cross our fingers and let's hope for that. It would be so much easier, and I think we would see more people probably riding the bus as a result. Okay, whoops. One of the other questions we asked, because right now you cannot plan your routes out on Google, but would it be more efficient for people if they could Google the routes? And you can see most people did say yes. Some people said maybe, so I take a maybe as a yes. So I think that having a digital map of the transit system and being able to go onto Google to plan it out would really be of assistance to a lot of people. And then we wanted to know, how do you prefer to receive information about transportation? Overwhelmingly, people said website, followed by newsletter, which I do send out a newsletter on a monthly basis. So if you're not on that, you can go to moveloraincounty.org and sign up, and you'll start receiving information on a regular basis about various transportation efforts happening in Lorain County. So we did allow people to put their email address in with the survey, and there were about 40 people, believe it or not, that added their email address. And so now they're on our mailing list for the monthly newsletter. So which social media services do you use, if any? This was something that the Coordinated Planning Review Committee suggested, that instead of us trying to guess which one works the best, which one we should base it on what people actually are using. And so we're seeing that Facebook is the overwhelming way in which people want to get their information, or well, yeah, the way, because this wasn't specifically about transportation, but this is what they look at the most, followed by YouTube, because video is very, very important. So we need to probably look at doing more video. And then I'm kind of surprised about Instagram personally, because I didn't, but it looks like that's another important one that we should start to consider to get people's attention. So, okay. Once again, this is just another one. What places where do you need to use transportation, or how do you use it? Medical appointments, number 1, grocery store, number 2, going to a department store, visiting family and friends. It's very interesting because visiting family and friends has been the number 4 one for the last 5 years, actually. But work is another one that we have started to see slowly creeping up. Prior to 2018, I think work was in the top 11, top 15. Now we're starting to see it rise closer to the top 5 needs. So that's the reason why we are running that workforce transportation pilot program. So with that, I don't know if there's any questions anybody has on the on what we just presented, or comments on the transportation survey results. If not, let's go ahead and move on to the Menti. So if you go to menti.com, either on your cell phone, or you can just minimize the screen and go to menti.com. You're going to put in this code 66606273. All your answers are anonymous, so we won't be able to see. So be honest. I don't know where they're coming from at all. And we'll show you the results here, and the code is going to be at the top of the screen as well. So let me see if I can share. Maybe I can just go. Okay, I gotta reshare this. Hold on. Try to see where my Menti. Yeah, I think this is it. Okay. All right. So the code is at the top here, 66606273. It'll remain at the top as well. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can. Okay, go on to the first question, just so that you can get used to using this. What are you drinking at the moment? Is it tea, coffee, water, pop soda, juice, something else? Nothing. Oh, looks like coffee is winning. Oh, no, water. All you healthy people out there. Water. Oh, water. Yay. Oh, so I said nothing. All right. Okay, cool. So what type of organization do you represent? I'm just trying to get a feel for who's in the room today. So nonprofit, business, county. Okay, so looks like majority of nonprofits are here in the room today. So where do your clients or others tell you they struggle access to the most? Is it medical, hospital, food, grocery, work, college, school, social entertainment? I think you can answer as many as you want, just looking, if not, that's fine. Just looking for, to verify the survey results. So it seems that, this is kind of mimicking what we saw in the survey, that transportation or that medical access is really, really huge. problem. Work is another one. And then crossing those county lines, most likely, which is because of needing to get to medical. So. Yep, this is really good information just to kind of verify what we're finding. So now that you've heard all these transportation survey results, and some of you have been on Lorain County Transit bus ride with me, and I hope that maybe more of you will join me because it's really an eye-opening experience. But what transportation issues, based on the survey results that we're seeing right now, do you think we should be focusing on in 2023? So I'm seeing like the top 3 needs already: grocery, workforce, medical, upgrading Lorain County Transit, workforce, transportation, cross-county transit. The bigger the word comes up, the more that people are saying that. So there almost seems to be equal amounts right now. Seems like medical, workforce, and grocery are top of the list right now. Oh, now grocery starting to edge out medical a little bit. So, okay. Well, if there aren't any more, cross-county transportation app using technology, court, cashless system, out of county transportation, but workforce, grocery, medical seem to be right now kind of like the top needs. I mean, this is all really good. I mean, it's not anything different than what we already know, but it's just really good when we have a audience like this to hear directly from all of you. So I've been getting some people, once they get on Lorain County Transit, say, okay, now what can I do to help advocate? What ideas do you have? How do you believe that people can help advocate for improved transit? Is it they write letters to the commissioners? Do we get testimonials? Do we do videos? You know, what is it? What are some advocating ideas that you've seen that really work? Because I want to be able to direct people in a way that can be very supporting, not bashing, but supporting specifically for these vulnerable populations. You know, we really need to advocate for workforce transportation. We need really access to medical appointments. How we make that bridge. Do people go to the commissioners? I don't know if there's, do they support what MOVE is doing? So, but I see partnerships is one of them. Oops, you know what? Being transparent with commissioners about transportation needs, write letters, email, call them. Identify specific needs, locations, schedules. Letters to commissioners about route expansion based on learnings from workforce and medical pilots. Develop partnerships with medical establishments. This is all really good information to help us identify, getting the community more involved by offering free transportation day, gathering data real time. You know, that's a really good suggestion about the free transportation day. There are a lot of opportunities for us to do that, like such as I think a couple of years ago, I advocated with the commissioners to do a free ride on voting day so that people can get go to vote. And because a lot of other communities were doing that. And maybe we need to really take a look at that. But you know, I would love for all of you to encourage the commissioners to ride the routes with us. You do not understand until you ride these bus routes, what people have to deal with every day. Until you talk to them, talk to the drivers, they really know. So thank you for your input on these things. Are there other transportation topics that you would like to learn about in the future? Just want to kind of help with planning out and scheduling some presenters that are of interest to this group. I hope today was very eye-opening, enlightening, educational, but I don't know if there's any other type of topics you would like to hear about. I know a couple of, last time we heard about workforce transportation. We've had the health department here talking about vaccinations. You know, we could talk about microtransit. Oh, sorry, put that up. As I was saying that, microtransit might be another one because that is something that is starting to be very big with transit agencies, which is microtransit basically is Uber on demand for transit agencies. You know, so people can schedule it. So it looks like funding, conference training. There's also a council of governments in which either I think the county is going to be joining, which I hope will happen. If the county doesn't join, individual cities can join. So information about drivers, I take it about maybe hiring drivers, best practices on doing that. That would be really good. Liability protection. Probably regarding transportation providers. ADA guidelines. Oh yeah, that would be a really good one because I will tell you, it is very eye-opening when you understand what paratransit is to be here. ADA and funding. This is really going to help me with identifying some presentations for next year. I think, yeah, especially the ADA and the microtransit and the funding. I will tell you that recently we found out that the state of Ohio has $2 billion of ARPA funding that's unspent. And I would love to get some of my hands on that for transportation. If we could. So, so thank you. I think that is my last slide. Yep. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the presentation. Let me stop share, reshare. All right, want to let you know if you're looking for transportation information for you or your clients or anybody you know, you can go online and go to moveloraincounty.org, and right on the homepage, you can click on the transportation guide there. But we are going to have some updated, beautiful transportation guides by the beginning of October. So look out for those. Also, I know we're going to be at the We Care Fair tomorrow from 10 to 3. So if you want some transportation guides, we have a limited supply, but I can get those to you just so that you know about that. And whoops, these are ways in which you can get involved. We do have a Facebook and Twitter page, so we encourage you to go there and like that and follow us. Move Lorain County website, just mentioned that. You can sign up for the monthly e-newsletters at moveloraincounty.org. Also, consider donating toward Lorain County Mobility Management as well, because we do need a 20% local match. So with that being said, I would like to open it up to see if anybody has any announcements that they want to make right now. About your agency or anything going on in Lorain County, just raise your hand or unmute yourself and you can go ahead and announce anything. So I see Maggie, you asked, are the inserts from Lorain County Transit for the transportation guide more accurate this year? You mean, Maggie, are you talking about for the Lorain County Transit routes themselves?
For the books, like, you know, the transportation guide that you guys gave out. So the inserts that were in there, like I had a coworker who was trying to send it to a client, and she came in my office and she was like trying to put it together and was like, this doesn't make very much sense. And I just kind of looked at her and was like, okay. So, and like, we were going to try to send that to a client. So I just figured if she had some difficulty with it, then there might be. So I just was wondering if maybe they were like updated or if they had done something along those lines. with
No,
that.
they're not. I realized when I was trying to plan one of the ride-alongs that I probably need to do a video on how to read the maps. It's not very clear on how to read them because the routes are back to back. So you have to look at Route 1 and Route 51 together to see the whole thing, to understand how it flows. And I think I'm gonna, when I was doing that yesterday, I think I'm gonna have to do a video on this. So Maggie, thank you for bringing that up because it isn't very clear. Because as we found, nobody was with me when I was on the route. Most people, the way that they learn who are on the bus, they get on a couple of hours at a time to figure out where the bus goes because there's no route maps on the bus at all. So that's how they learn. So there's the route maps, unfortunately, are not out in the public except for when they are associated with us putting them in the book when we're handing out the transportation guide. So with that, I don't know if there's any other questions, but thank you for that answer, Maggie, and for that project. I will be working on that. But I hope that this was some good information. Unfortunately, yes, nothing has really changed over the last 5 years as far as moving the needle on some of these events. The We Care event is at Lorain County Community College tomorrow. So it's a resource fair with various activities, and a lot of nonprofits are going to be there with resources. Oh, it's going to be at the main branch. So with that, thank you so much for joining today. Let me put in my information in the chat if you want to reach out to me with any questions. I will be putting this video up on the site so you can share it with others. I will specifically be taking out Kierra's portion and putting that on separately. So if you just want that information to review it again, feel free. And her information is in the chat. You can save the chat. And then that way you can keep her information by just pushing the 3 little dots next to the smiley face and save chat, and it'll save as a text. Okay. So thank you. And I hope everybody has a great day.